Hello, my name is Matthew Hunter with Legacy Wilderness Academy.
Hello, my name's Georgia with Legacy Wilderness Academy.
And we're on a mission to document every edible and medicinal plant in the southeastern U.S. so Southerners can have greater access to nutritious food and free medicine.
Today, we're going to be looking at Spring Beauty that is a beautiful flower and has edible roots. What did you say I could say after?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Before we get started, I'll quickly mention that if you want to learn more about useful plants of the southeastern U.S., make sure that after this video you download my free guide to medicinal plants, which you can find in the link in the description below this video. We also have a big announcement before we get started. For those of you who have been watching the channel for a while, we have a new member of Legacy Wilderness Academy, Mr. Morse Hunter. So pretty soon, this guy is going to be teaching you guys all about edible and medicinal plants, and maybe even some wild mushrooms as well. Oh, and Georgia also has an announcement. You want to announce it?
I have a wiggly tooth, and it's my first one.
Her first loose tooth. There we go. All right, guys, let's get to the video and we'll learn about Spring Beauty. Spring Beauty is a low-growing perennial wildflower with a starchy edible root that tastes like potatoes. It was eaten by Native American tribes throughout large parts of the United States, and it's commonly found in the early spring in yards and open fields in my area. So in this video, we'll look at how to identify Spring Beauty, and we'll talk about its edible uses.
Today, we are going to teach you how to identify Spring Beauty because of the white petals, and there's 5, and the little sepals, there's 2 sepals, and there's pink stripes. You just can't see the stripes that good. So, can I eat it? Mm-hmm. This is going to be a good video.
So like Georgia said, Spring Beauty is identified by its white flowers with 5 petals that have pink streaks on the petals. And you can also flip it over and look at its 2 sepals, which are those little green sort of leafy petals underneath. Spring Beauty appears in midwinter in my area. It actually starts blooming anywhere from around January 15th until late January, depending on the year, and it flowers all the way until about mid-March. So in your area, you know, the months may be different because some people are still under snow during that time, but whenever the snow melts, it's going to be one of the very first flowers that blooms in the spring. Lastly, Spring Beauty has grass-like leaves. You can see that it really blends in with grass until it blooms. And if you look at a Spring Beauty patch, you'll see that there's bees all over the place. And if you look closely at the bees on their legs where they have their little pollen sacs, you'll notice that they're pink because the bees that are foraging on these Spring Beauty are collecting the pink pollen of the Spring Beauty. And so you'll notice that the bees have these little like pink sacs on their legs, and that's from the Spring Beauty pollen. Pretty cool. So to dig up a Spring Beauty root, we're going to put our shovel right next to it, and it's real shallow, so you don't have to go very deep. I'm just going to do like that, and we're just going to pop it right out in one quick motion. Okay, and I don't want to make too much disturbance because this is in my yard here. Now there's 1 root per plant, so we're going to shake it till we find that root. So there we go. This one's a pretty good size one here. There we go. Okay, so here's what we harvested today for demonstration. I'm not going to harvest any more today because we already harvested some of the big ones out of the yard last year, and I want to give this patch a chance to rest before I harvest any more. So these you can boil up. They make a really good side dish. They taste just like potatoes, and if you want, you can call them by their funner name, fairy spuds. So it's very easy to harvest a significant amount of Spring Beauty roots in a small amount of time. And there's no doubt in my mind that for some Native American tribes, Spring Beauty was an important source of calories in the spring. We have records of Native American tribes all over the country eating the roots, and it's very likely that early American settlers took advantage of the roots as well. That being said, in the modern day, there is very much a potential for over-harvesting of Spring Beauty roots because you do have to kill the plant to take the root. And so, you know, this is a really abundant wildflower in some areas. In fact, in my area, it can be found growing in fields and yards. There's massive, huge patches that, of course, nobody is harvesting because not a whole lot of people forage anyway. But it is something that we do want to be aware of, and we don't want to, take from the same area over and over. It's something that I use more as a fun side dish. a little fun family activity, maybe once a year. But more than that, we're not going to be, using this as a major food source unless it's an emergency. And on that vein, it is interesting how Native American tribes, particularly in the western United States, would manage, and probably in the eastern US too, would manage these types of populations. Oftentimes when it comes to root vegetables, they would wait until the plants went to seed to harvest it, and that would increase the likelihood that the seeds would fall back into the hole that you just dug it out of, and increase the chances of a new plant sprouting up in place of the one that you just took. The leaves and flowers of spring beauty are also edible, and Georgia loves to walk around the yard picking spring beauty flowers, and when her friends come over, she likes to show them, that they're edible. So spring beauty flowers are really great. You can throw them into salads, kind of impress your friends, and I'm sure it would make for a really good conversation starter. The leaves of some spring beauties are really good. They're like a good salad green. The ones we have locally around here, I haven't been too impressed with. I have heard of some people like frying them up in bacon grease, which, of course, anything fried in bacon grease is going to taste good. But yeah, the leaves and flowers are a really fun vegetable to experiment with as well. And of course, that doesn't hurt the plant because it is perennial. It's just going to keep producing leaves and flowers every single year. So for us, spring beauty is way more than just how many calories can we get from this plant. First of all, it's just cool and fun to know that there's edible roots growing right in our front yard. I mean, that's just cool. But more than that, as a homeschooler, spring beauty provides a great educational opportunity where we can reconnect with the natural world around us in a really hands-on and practical way. We can talk about history and how people used to live and what they had to do to survive and how food wasn't always easy to come by. And we can talk about where our food comes from and that it doesn't come from the grocery store, but it grows in the ground. It's also a botany lesson where we can talk about what sepals are, and we can take the plant inside and take a look at it more closely. And it just ignites our curiosity of the natural world. That's what foraging does. It ignites our curiosity of the natural world and the things God made. We can look at it and say, wow, this unassuming little plant is hiding a starchy vegetable. I wonder what else is hiding right out here in plain sight that I don't know about. So even though we don't eat a whole lot of the roots every year, every time it blooms, we love looking at it and talking about it. And it's really good to know just in case of an emergency anyway, but we really just love the spring beauty plant. It's a really fun plant to know. Lastly, let's look at where spring beauty grows. So spring beauty is in the genus Claytonia, and there are numerous species of Claytonia all throughout the United States. Not all of them have edible tubers, and some of the ones that do have edible tubers are sort of locally rare. They have more of a isolated distribution, so they're more like delicate wildflowers we would not want to dig up. But there are 3 species I know of that are widespread in their distribution and that can be harvested. The one that's most common in the western US is called Claytonia lanceolata. And then in the northeast and throughout the Appalachian Mountains, we have the Carolina spring beauty. It's Claytonia caroliniana. And then throughout the whole eastern US, widespread, excluding parts of the deep south, we have the Virginia spring beauty. That's the one that we looked at in this video here in northern Louisiana. And that's Claytonia virginiana or virginica, one of the two. And all 3 of those species of spring beauty are going to be identified the same way. They have white flowers with 5 petals. The petals have pink streaks, and if you flip them over, they have 2 sepals on the back, so they're all really similar in their identification. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, my name is Matthew Hunter.
And my name's Georgia Hunter.
And this is Legacy Wilderness Academy. See you guys in the next one.